Hello, everyone, and welcome to Demos for Democracy, an ongoing series of live interactive online demos featuring designers and builders of the latest innovative governance platforms. Right now, we have Josh, which is going to talk about Screendoor. Screendoor is this application created and developed by the Department of Better Technology. So thank you, Josh, for accepting our invitation. We are very excited to have you. We are actually also users of Screendoor. So thank you, welcome, and let's start.
Well, thank you again so much for having me. It's great to join you. So the Department of Better Technology is a software company that very much came out of the civic tech community. And the founders are two, Adam Becker and Clay Johnson, who were in the first class of Presidential Innovation Fellows at the White House. And they were working on the problem of technology in government, but more specifically around the challenge that it's really hard for innovative, interesting technology companies, and not just technology companies, any company, to work and help government solve problems. And specifically, they were building a tool that was called at the time Procure.io, which was meant to lower the barrier for innovative companies to find opportunities, procurement opportunities, and then also help administrative teams, help government agencies better manage the information and the applications once they came into their organization. And after their fellowship, they spun off a tool that's now called Screendoor. And Screendoor and the Department of Better Technology more generally work across government and nonprofits. So we have clients that are municipal governments in the US. We work with federal agencies and also international development organization. Across a bunch of needs, Screendoor, as I'll show in this demo, has grown beyond procurement. It's now a tool to help anytime you need to collect and manage the flow of information and make decisions about information that's coming into your organization, whether that's finding your next hire, issuing permits, getting feedback. We see it as a really broad tool, and as a 18, 20-month-old company, it's a really, really exciting time to be in this space. I've been with the company about 6 months now. Mm-hmm. I just became CEO, so I'm leading up business development efforts. So it's been really interesting to talk to governments and nonprofits that want to do things differently.
Okay. So can you show us the tool and I don't know, give us the most important features or what's different about it?
Absolutely. So I'm going to run through a demo of Screendoor with an example project. And so let me share my screen.
Okay.
Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Minimize that. So, 1 second. So, this demo has two parts. So if you're a government or a nonprofit and you want to quickly put a form on the internet and then manage the responses of that form, that's a great use case for Screendoor. So we start in the first half with the demo with creating the form, creating your team members, and setting up the decisions that you want to make around the form. And then in the second half of the demo, we talk about part of Screendoor that I'm really excited about, which is the response interface. So once you have information that starts to come in, how do you make decisions about that? And Screendoor really lowers the barrier for teams and saves a lot of time in helping teams make the right decisions about the forms that come in.
Okay.
So with that in mind, if you look at, starting with the first half, if you look at getting a project up and running, you have a checklist on your right side. And what this really does is, take you through a very quick project wizard where you go from, a form that you may have as an agency in PDF or elsewhere, and it quickly allows you to stand up, put a website and, put the form and start collecting information. And just to give you a sense of what that looks like in practice, here is one of our clients, the city of Gainesville, who used Screendoor to collect responses around leasing a restaurant station. So they were able to collect a wide range of responses and rate those responses and choose the best one very, very simply and easily. So to set up the project, you're going through this checklist to set up the page that you see here. So using the example project of an RFP, we want to make a great healthcare website. So, you have everything saving automatically as you go, and, you can incorporate any sort of visual, aspects that you need. And then you're also providing you can think of these first few steps as providing your applicants with the key information that they need to make a decision. So in this case, it's, timeline, how long the project will last, the deliverables, and you can add any number of fields that you need. So again, taking this out of, anyone without, advanced technical skills can very quickly stand this up. So what we just did was what you see here, key information on the right, and the narrative of what you want to apply to, and the response to get the application right here on the right side. So as we're moving through, one thing that often happens when governments issue calls for applications of various kinds is a Q&A tool where questions come in and you need to be able to answer them, and you don't want to get overwhelmed with email. And what happens is here you can set up a Q&A period where you have the ability to actually answer the questions publicly. So you can make sure that everyone who's asking a question, all of those answers are shared more broadly. You can choose to make those questions anonymous as well as the answers anonymous. One thing you'll see through this demo is that because Screendoor comes from government, everything is set up to make it very simple to do M&E, make reports after the project is over, and ensure you can get your data out of Screendoor into the formats that you need to use it. So here you have the responses due. We can say we want our responses due April 1st at midnight, and we want folks to make a Screendoor account or make those responses anonymous. Another thing that we're really excited about is that we just launched credit card payments using Stripe, as well as e-signatures. So you can get, folks to sign permit applications and these sorts of things, and very quickly stand those up. You can also engage with your applicants and save a lot of time as you're doing it. So you can send customized emails to folks.
Okay.
So here is your form builder. So imagine you're a municipal government and you're doing hiring, or you're offering an RFP, and you have a PDF version of a form and you want to recreate that here in Screendoor. And what you can do is, we have a very simple drag and drop tool where you insert fields, title them, And you can make any of these fields required, admin only, or blind. So Screendoor really thrives in a multiple reviewer environment where many people are involved in making decisions, and that where there's a high barrier to managing that that workflow, and that's what Screendoor really helps manage. But as we get into this form here, you can see the drop-down menu. You can add checkboxes and really customize any form, any information that you need to this form and stand it up in minutes. You have an after response email where you can insert any information that you need from the form itself. And here's where the demo starts getting more into the workflow elements. So you have forms coming in, and you can put them in what we call statuses. So this is essentially buckets. In an RFP example, you have open, rejected, or awarded. You may have, a round 2 you can input in here, and you can even allow respondents to see the status of their response. And so here you can start to see that, instead of many other form builders where you're just kicking a document into, a Google spreadsheet or into an Excel document, here you're starting to get, what can I do with the information once I start to collect it?
So can respondents go back and complete or change their answers?
Yes, you can set the ability for respondents to change their answers up to any date that you choose. So that's a advantage with Screendoor. So you can, at every step of the process for administrators, for people, putting projects together in Screendoor, you have very granular control over exactly who can see what at what time.
Okay.
And so here, just as you have form fields as you're building a form for, say, a forestry permit, you also have evaluation fields. So you can think of the evaluation field as something that you put either for any question in the form, any field in the form itself, or the entire response. So this is saying, I have 10 reviewers, for example. I want them to evaluate the entire response on a 1 through 10 scale. I also want them to look at qualifications, and I want them to do a grade for budget. And this, you can customize this to do color ranges, stars, or free text. So now, once you have this set up, you're basically inserting this into the form for your reviewers to, on the spot, make decisions and judge the information that comes in, whether it's something as simple as approved, not approved, or something as complex as a range of scores on an RFP. And for those more complex settings, we have what we call advanced evaluation. So this is saying, I care a lot about budget and very little about proposal and qualifications. And obviously, that probably wouldn't be the case, but I'll show you in the next step what that looks like in terms of generating overall scores. So if you're an organization, say, that has hundreds of applications coming in and you have dozens of reviewers, you want to make sure everyone is making the decision, the evaluation on the right part of the application, making the decisions that you need to make, and quickly quantifying those into an overall score.
So what is the best use case you can, this Screendoor works best for organizations that will receive this amount of applications and that will have at least this amount of collaborators? Where is the point that you do leverage your tool?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have folks who are using it with as small a number as 2 or 3 collaborators. And, we have folks who are using it for, hundreds of collaborators. So I think anytime you want to, I think it works quite well even on the lower end, because it allows you to, do workflow management. We call it a multi-user collaborative workflow, which I'll show you in a second. And so anytime, more than one person needs to make a decision, and those decisions need to be tracked and traced, that's where Screendoor shines. And even with one person, you can imagine, because in the sense that each click and each decision or evaluation is tracked within Screendoor. Even if you have one person doing all the evaluations, you can export that as a CSV at the end of the day. You can look at each individual applicant and get their scores. So, for a lot of governments, if there's a need for that auditability, Screendoor really gives you that functionality.
And how many collaborators does the platform hold? Like one application, how many collaborators can some?
We haven't yet met a scale that we can't handle. So the tool scales very well. So like I said, we've had hundreds of collaborators, and we haven't had a limit that we've seen. And we're a small company. And we work really closely with our customers to make sure that it has the functionality that they need, even at scale, and that we can handle that.
And for example, I was also reading in the description that you have the buckets, but you also have the tags. So the tags are meant for, is that something different from the buckets you mentioned?
Yeah, I think that'll make a little bit more sense in the very next step that I show you, where you start getting the applications coming in. This what you see here in terms of collaborators is the last step on launching the project. Mm-hmm. And then you get into what actually happens once they start coming in, and that's where some of the tagging sort of functionalities matter. So I'll just finish this up and then go to that. Basically here, you're adding in your collaborators. So these are people who you want to be involved in the decision-making process. So you can have reviewer status, where you're assigning folks to make decisions about incoming applications. You can have admin or view only. And you can also have custom. So here you see, again, really granular permission settings so that, you can be really sure that the right people are seeing the right information, even when there's sensitive information involved. And to get to your question, this is the response dashboard. So here is what happens when you start getting applications in the door. And so you can sort of think of this as a very, very easy to use, web-based relational database, where you have, columns here, and you can reference any bit of information that you have in your system. And I think your question was about labels. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So labels are sort of tags. So in the same sense that you can come in and assign incoming bids to or forms to reviewers, you can also add tags. So what you're really doing is starting a conversation, both quantitatively in terms of overall scores, on various metrics, but also qualitatively. So, you can add a label here where we need to show this to legal to get some advice. And that will just be added right to that application. The other way that you can sort of have the conversation is, here's anonymous applicant number 1. The form's been assigned to user number 5. Here's the response ratings. So I want to give them an 8 on overall proposal, but a low score on qualifications and a 4 on budget. And I want to comment, we need more information. So labels and comments, I think, are both good examples of where you can start a conversation amongst multiple reviewers. And as I mentioned here, you see the overall rating. So if you have multiple reviewers, you're going to be able to get that overall score if you choose to do so. And one other useful thing here is, say you want to look at everything that's ever happened with this application in Screendoor. So you have your total ratings and exactly how those ratings are quantified and measured.
So respondents can ask questions to you, but can you also ask questions to them through Screendoor?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So, I showed the automatic, message for, once a form is submitted, but there's also ways to interact with your respondents, either in a batch group basis or one-off.
Oh.
And so let's say we want to get more information from these 3 respondents about their bids. So we go to write message. A question for you, insert name. And we can say, we saw that you mentioned blah, and we want more information on that. So you could send that to a bunch of different respondents and personalize those emails to get exactly what you need from them to follow up. And that, a lot of our clients use that when they're doing things like telling people they got to the next round, or telling them, sorry, we didn't accept you, or, approving them for something. So all of those can be used, and you can create presets as well to make sure that, you have those tools available as you need.
And when they answer back, they do it through the email, or they get sent the link to the form so that they correct or add?
Well, so you can have people come back in if you set to do that, and you can have them respond to a email that will go into this system. One thing that on the Q&A. I mentioned you can have people ask questions, and then the answers will be displayed publicly. That's here. But you can also have, on the messaging side, have people follow up to a certain email address or go back into their form to correct that.
Okay, great. Also, if any of the participants have questions, you can send them through the chat, or you can make them directly. I have right now 2 questions. 3 questions now. The first one is from Arno, and he says, have you tried the tool for academic conferences? Current systems are a real mess. Then Maria asked, do you only have 3 categories for evaluation, proposal, qualifications, and budget? And if you have this software in Spanish? And Rafael has some questions too. Regarding Screendoor accounts, how do they work? How do you add forms to your website? Can you share us examples? And how can you export databases?
Great. So just taking notes here. So the first question on academic conferences, we've done a lot of work, not necessarily with academics per se, but with a bunch of great, innovative nonprofits like the Mozilla Foundation. And one thing that folks use Screendoor for is selecting, fellows for a conference or participants for a conference. And, that's something that would work really, really well because, you have large volumes of information coming in and you need to rate respondents or folks on a scale for choosing, say, an academic paper. Or something like that. So that would be definitely an interesting use case. The second one was something around how many fields you can have.
Yeah, how many categories for evaluation?
Yeah, so you can make that as extensive as you want. You could put in, and that goes back to here, evaluations. So if you wanted to have an evaluation field for each form field, you could do that. So you can really have an unlimited number and make your decision based on any information that you need. So it's meant to be super flexible And so once you come in and start a project, you have all of this capability to customize this very quickly.
So you can add as many categories for evaluation as you want.
Exactly. Just as you could make, a application that is as long as you need it to be, or a form that as long as you need it to be.
Okay. And do you have
there was a question on Spanish.
Yeah.
So from a technical perspective, we do have that ability to we've completed internationalization in Rails, but we haven't yet had a project where we've translated Screendoor into Spanish. And we'd love to do that, and that's definitely coming down the line. And we'd love to have partners who would work with us on that. So unfortunately, we can't roll out Spanish today, but it's definitely something we're interested in.
Okay. And now from Rafael, we have a question about the accounts. How do they work? How do you add forms to your website? If you can share us examples of forms that are added to a website, and how can you export databases?
Great. Okay. So, so I'll start with the first question in terms of embedding there's two ways that you can use Screendoor from sort of a style perspective, or from a website owner's perspective. The first is to just use sort of core Screendoor style, and that's what you see here, where the city of Gainesville just they had their own .gov website, and they link to this application. The other way is to embed these forms in your own style sheets. And so we make it easy to do that here. And so folks do that in terms of just taking, a lot of folks who don't want to do the back-end development side of, designing their own forms and that sort of thing. Can use Screendoor as sort of a core piece of technology that can then they can then embed that and then come over on the admin side to evaluate the projects. And then, so this is, again, an example of a form that has, that a municipal government. There's also, to get a look at sort of fellowship application in terms of diving in and seeing the response. This is what the response would look like from the applicant perspective. So you get a very clean and clear, form, and it's very easy for your applicants to, ensure that they don't lose their data and sort of submit the application in ways that are super easy for them.
Okay. And there's a question about how do you add, regarding the accounts, how do they work, and also how to export the information.
Right, okay. So we offer accounts, we offer, very, very easy to use, very easy to quickly stand up Screendoor. And so we offer licenses on a monthly basis and on an annual basis. And it's as easy as coming into the website, entering your credit card information, and you're good to go. One thing I do want to spread the word about is that we just recently changed our free trial from a 10-day trial to an unlimited trial for your first project. And you have a limited number of collaborators, but you can go in and try Screendoor today and compare it to other systems and get a sense of it, and then change your account at any point to get more sort of horsepower out of it in terms of number of projects and number of participants in those projects. So what we call a project is what you just saw here, which is, one form, one RFP, or one application, or whatever it is, with number of participants in evaluating that. In terms of getting data out of Screendoor, that's also something, being from the open data community, we care a lot about. So you can do that in a couple of different ways. The first is if you want certain data from your project to be exported in, say, a CSV, an XLS, or a PDF, you can say, I want to take these applications and export those responses in whichever format you would like, and you can just go ahead and download them. You can also segment using advanced search. So, if this is your very sort of easy to use relational database, you can search and find anything you need within those applications. You can also do advanced search. So I just want to look at organizations that met certain qualifications around their overall rating. So I can do that and then export those responses. The other way to do it is to export the entire project, and it'll just go directly to your email with all the attachments, everything that's involved in a zip file. So we try to make it, we make ourselves super fireable in a sense that, this is your data and you'll always have the ability to do what you need to do with it. And Screendoor will just facilitate that.
Right. And regarding the questions, is there a possibility, for example, that if respondent says yes, then ask this, if they say no, then ask this, like follow-up questions depending on what they're answering?
Yeah, so we call that conditional logic, and that's a feature that we're taking live in the next few months.
Okay.
Because a lot of folks have asked us about that, and that's really valuable. So we're going to have that at some point in the near future. And
Rafael also asked, how can you add complex questions? For example, I need a politician to disclose assets, putting characteristics of a property like value, owner, date of acquisition. Can I use Screendoor for such forms?
Absolutely. The way that Screendoor was developed was to, as I mentioned before, ensure that only the right people see the right information. And the original use case was things around like RFP bid names and financial data. So, if you were doing a high profile RFP and you wanted to ensure that your reviewers didn't see a name field or didn't see the financial field, you can ensure that those are blind fields in the project setup. So you can make sure that only the right people see the right information that you need, and everything sort of meets the highest standards of data security as well. And we have several evaluations around personally identifiable information. So you can make sure that everything is secure.
Okay. And I know we're over the time, but if I could ask one more question before we finish, Josh, is that what's your definition of success? What are your hopes for Screendoor, but also for the Department of Better Technology? If you can share us that vision or your hope.
Absolutely. So we really want to see Screendoor at scale. We love seeing as many users as we can have putting this tool to use for a couple of reasons. One, we think it'll actually improve the relationship between organizations that use Screendoor and their constituencies, whether those are citizens who are giving feedback about something, or whether those are relationships with companies who are interested in offering services. We want to deliver that, high quality, beautiful and intuitive experience to, bring that within the government space and nonprofit space, the same sort of experience that we often have in our day-to-day lives as consumers, and those same, technical, advantages. And so, we're a SaaS company, we're a product company, and so we'd like to, we've set up the project, the tool to be as useful as possible, across municipalities and agencies and nonprofits. And then more broadly, I think for the Department of Better Technology, we're just interested in continuing to help governments and nonprofits better serve their citizens in whatever way that means. So one thing that we're really excited about is that Screendoor has a really robust API, and as a tool that facilitates data collection and evaluation, it plays really nicely with a bunch of other tools in the civic tech space, whether those are things like open data dashboards, or whether those are things like turning paper forms into data. We want to make sure that a lot of these tools can be stacked together, and can therefore be a much more powerful offering for governments and nonprofits.
Okay. Well, Josh, I don't know if there's something else you want to add.
Oh, this is great. I want to thank you so much for having me. I'm a huge fan of the GovLab.
No, thank you. Thank you for accepting our invitation. We are very excited about using your tool, and we hope you do manage to scale it, because from our experience, it has been working great, and it does addresses some issues that no other tool
Yeah, please do reach out to us for all of those listening. Like I said, we're a small and growing company, and we'd like to talk with you about if Screendoor can sort of help you solve your problems, and it would be great to get as many users and getting Screendoor to help as many folks as possible.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you everyone for listening. And we hope to see you back in our next Demo for Democracy. Thank you.